The silent vanguard, the grand sentinel of the Vraxian Empire, Calvor, gazed through the crystalline viewport of his command ship at the blue-green planet displayed on the massive holographic projection. His four eyes narrowed, their golden irises contracting as he studied the third planet of this unremarkable solar system. Behind him, 20 council members waited in respectful silence, their scaled skin shimmering under the ambient light. Primitive, Calvor finally pronounced, his dual voice boxes creating a harmonic resonance that filled the chamber. Yet another species that has barely managed to leave their atmospheric cradle. High Commander Zivra, his second-in-command, stepped forward. Unlike the other Vraxians, whose skin displayed various shades of blue, Zivra's scales held a distinctive purple tint, the mark of pure bloodlines and military excellence. Their technology is rudimentary, Zivra agreed, manipulating the hologram to display Earth's orbital infrastructure. Satellite networks, a small orbital habitat, and primitive chemical propulsion systems. Their most advanced vessels still require 9 months to reach their neighboring planet. Calvor's mouth ridge formed what approximated a smile in Vraxian physiology. And yet they respond to our arrival with defiance instead of reverence. Fascinating. 3 standard cycles earlier, the Vraxian Advanced Scout Fleet had entered Earth's solar system, announcing the impending arrival of the Empire and offering Earth a standard Class 3 integration opportunity. Essentially autonomous vassal status with technological exchange, provided Earth acknowledged Vraxian supremacy and offered appropriate tribute. Earth's unified response had been unexpected. A firm rejection delivered by Secretary General Maya Rodriguez of the United Nations. The humans had broadcast their refusal on all frequencies, declaring their intent to remain independent and sovereign. Their defiance lacks foundation, Councillor Fexbol commented from the assembly. Our scans detect fewer than 50 primitive interplanetary vessels in their entire system. Their weapons rely on kinetic principles and nuclear fission. They possess no quantum technology whatsoever. Calvor turned away from the viewport. As is tradition with species who refuse initial integration, we have granted them 3 cycles to reconsider. The deadline approaches. Prepare the domination fleet. We will make an example of this world. As the Vraxian command ship departed the solar system to gather the Empire's forces, they remained oblivious to the small, stealthed observation platform drifting among the ice fragments of the Kuiper Belt. Inside the platform, Commander Elena Reyes of the newly formed Earth Defense Coalition transmitted the Vraxian conversation to Earth via quantum entanglement, a technology the aliens believed humans lacked. They're coming back, Elena reported to the Emergency Security Council assembled in the underground facility beneath Geneva. And they're bringing their full military might. On the wall-sized display, representatives from Earth's nations watched the Vraxian ships vanish into faster-than-light travel. The room fell silent as the gravity of their situation settled over them. General Hassan Khalid of the EDC broke the silence. How long do we have? Based on their stated timeline and observed FTL capabilities, 3 months, Elena replied. Defense Secretary Williams leaned forward. And what's the status of Project Prometheus? Dr. Chen Wei, lead scientist of humanity's desperate technological initiative, stood from her seat at the end of the table. We've successfully reverse-engineered the propulsion and shield systems from the scout ship we shot down over Antarctica. Production is underway at all 13 underground facilities. The lunar shipyards are operating at maximum capacity. Secretary General Rodriguez nodded. And the weapons systems? Better than we hoped, replied Admiral Takahashi. The gravitic distortion cannons have proven even more effective than projected. In simulations, they'd bypass Vraxian shield systems completely. Elena pulled up a tactical display. The Vraxians think we have fewer than 50 ships. They don't know about our asteroid mining operations in the belt, our Martian fabrication facilities, or the Jupiter moon shipyards. Most importantly, they don't know we captured one of their scouts. For 3 months after the Vraxian ultimatum, humanity had been working in absolute secrecy. Every nation had contributed resources, scientists, and military personnel to the most ambitious project in human history. Factories that once produced consumer goods now manufactured spaceship components. Universities had become research centers focused exclusively on understanding and improving upon alien technology. Most critically, the EDC had implemented Operation Darkside, a comprehensive electromagnetic and gravitational masking of all human military activities. The massive shipyards on the far side of the moon, within the hollowed-out asteroids of the belt, and beneath the icy surfaces of Jupiter's moons remained invisible to standard Vraxian scanning technology. "What are our numbers?" asked the Chinese premier. Admiral Takahashi tapped his tablet. "We'll have 8,400 combat vessels ready when they return. Another 12,000 automated drone ships, over 30,000 fighter craft. It's not enough to match their numbers, but with our technological adaptations, we believe it will be sufficient." The Russian president laughed bitterly. "Sufficient to not be annihilated immediately, perhaps." "No," Elena corrected. "Sufficient to win." As the days passed, humanity prepared in silence. Children continued attending schools, workers went to their jobs, and on the surface, Earth appeared to be carrying on as if the Vraxian threat didn't exist. This public facade masked the greatest mobilization in human history occurring beneath the surface, in orbital facilities masked by gravitational distortion fields and in the distant reaches of the solar system. In Lunar Facility Alpha, Elena Reyes stood before the assembled commanders of Earth's new fleet. 5,000 men and women who, 3 months ago, had been flying jets, commanding submarines, or leading ground forces on Earth. Now they would command spacecraft capable of faster-than-light travel and wielding weapons that could shatter moons. "The Vraxians believe we are primitive," Elena addressed them. "They expect us to either surrender or mount a token resistance with our 50 primitive ships. They don't understand who we are. Throughout our history, humanity has faced existential threats, from nature, from each other, and now from the stars. But there is one constant in our history. When pushed to the brink, humans don't surrender. We innovate. We adapt. We overcome." The commanders nodded, their faces grim but determined. "We have one advantage the Vraxians cannot comprehend," Elena continued. "They've had their technology for thousands of years, developing it gradually. We've had to master it in 3 months. This forced us to understand it at a fundamental level they take for granted. And in understanding it, we've improved it." On the massive display behind her, the tactical map showed the Vraxian fleet approaching the edge of the solar system. Over 3,000 capital ships and countless support vessels, a force that had subjugated 100 worlds. "They come expecting to find a primitive species cowering in fear," Elena said, her voice rising. "Instead, they'll find humanity standing united, refusing to bow, refusing to break. The Vraxians believe they're coming to the end of our story. They're wrong. They're arriving just in time for the beginning of theirs." As the final hours ticked away, Earth's hidden fleet moved into position. Powered down and masked by gravitational distortion fields, they waited in the darkness of space. When the Vraxian domination fleet emerged from FTL travel near Jupiter's orbit, their sensors detected exactly what they expected: a handful of primitive Earth vessels making a desperate last stand. On the bridge of the Vraxian flagship, Calvor laughed at the pitiful display. "Begin the subjugation protocol. Target their orbital infrastructure first." High Commander Zivra gave the order, and the massive Vraxian fleet began moving toward Earth in perfect formation, their weapons powering up. They never saw Elena Reyes' signal flashing across quantum channels to Earth's hidden fleet. They never detected the thousands of ships powering up simultaneously throughout the solar system. It was only when the space around them erupted with the sudden appearance of humanity's armada that the Vraxians realized their grave miscalculation. The human counterattack had begun. Defiance unleash. Calvor stared in disbelief as space itself seemed to warp around his fleet. Where moments before sensors had detected only a handful of primitive vessels, now thousands of warships materialize from the void, their hulls gleaming with unfamiliar technology that somehow incorporated Vraxian design principles. "Impossible," he whispered, all four eyes widening in shock. "Scan again." High Commander Zivra frantically worked the control console, but the results remained unchanged. "Grand Sentinel, we detect 8,426 vessels of military configuration surrounding our position. Their energy signatures suggest advanced gravitic propulsion and weapons systems we cannot identify." Before Calvor could process this revelation, the comm system activated with an incoming transmission. The holographic projector displayed a human female in a dark uniform adorned with minimal insignia. "Commander Elena Reyes." "This is Commander Reyes of the Earth Defense Coalition," she stated calmly. "Your fleet is surrounded. Power down your weapons systems and prepare for negotiations, or we will be forced to demonstrate our capabilities." Calvor's shock quickly transformed into rage. "This is some primitive deception. These cannot be human vessels. Begin the attack pattern immediately." The lead Vraxian warships fired their primary plasma cannons at the nearest human vessels. What happened next defied Vraxian understanding. Instead of impacting against shields or hulls, the plasma streams seemed to twist and bend around the Earth ships, their trajectories manipulated by invisible forces before dispersing harmlessly into space. "Graviton deflection technology," Zivra murmured in astonishment. "How could they possibly?" He never finished his sentence. A dozen human vessels fired their primary weapons, sleek ports along their hulls that emitted no visible energy but caused localized distortions in spacetime. Where these distortions intersected with Vraxian ships, catastrophic structural failures occurred. 20 Vraxian vessels simply collapsed in on themselves, imploding as if crushed by invisible hands. Aboard her flagship Defiance, Elena Reyes watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Gravitational distortion cannons performing as expected," reported her weapons officer. "All fleet commanders," Elena broadcast, "execute Operation Typhoon. Target priority vessels as identified. Remember, we want to minimize casualties while demonstrating overwhelming capability." The human fleet moved with precision that belied their 3 months of training. Thousands of smaller craft deployed from the capital ships, swarming toward the Vraxian fleet in complex, unpredictable patterns. On the Vraxian command ship, chaos reigned. "Our targeting systems cannot lock onto their smaller vessels," an officer reported frantically. "They're using some form of quantum uncertainty field." Calvor struggled to comprehend how humans, a species that supposedly lacked even basic faster-than-light technology 3 months ago, could now deploy weapons and defenses that surpassed even Vraxian understanding. His strategic mind quickly assessed the situation. They were outmaneuvered and facing technology they couldn't counter. "All vessels, defensive formation," he commanded. "Prepare for emergency FTL jump." But as the Vraxian ships attempted to engage their faster-than-light drives, they encountered another shocking development. The space around them seemed to thicken, becoming resistant to the quantum manipulation required for FTL travel. "They've deployed some form of quantum dampening field," Zivra reported, unable to keep the fear from his dual-tone voice. "Our FTL drives cannot establish a stable corridor." Surrounded, unable to escape, and watching their most powerful weapons rendered ineffective, the Vraxian command structure began to fracture. Several captains, ignoring central command, attempted to break through the human blockade using brute force. Their ships were systematically disabled, not destroyed, by precise gravitational attacks that crippled propulsion and weapons systems while leaving life support intact. Within the Vraxian council chambers aboard Calvor's flagship, panic spread. "How did they advance so quickly?" demanded Councillor Thexval. "It's impossible for any species to master such technology in 3 cycles." "You underestimated human adaptability," came a new voice from the holographic projector. Secretary General Rodriguez had joined the transmission. "When your scout ship arrived 3 months ago, You gave us something we've never had before. A tangible external threat that united all of humanity toward a single purpose. Belina Reyes continued the explanation. Every scientist, every engineer, every resource on our planet was dedicated to understanding and improving upon the technology we salvaged from your scout ship. What takes other species centuries of gradual development, we accomplished in 3 months of focused desperation. The revelation that humans had captured a Vraxian scout ship sent shockwaves through the command structure. Scouts contained comprehensive databases of Vraxian technology, not because they were expected to share it, but to facilitate repairs in distant systems. Calvor finally understood the magnitude of his error. The humans hadn't just copied Vraxian technology. They'd reimagined it, approaching it with fresh perspective and desperate innovation that had allowed them to improve upon designs that the Vraxians had considered perfected centuries ago. You have 2 options, Alina stated firmly. Withdrawal or surrender. Either way, the Vraxian Empire will acknowledge Earth and the entire Sol system as sovereign territory, off-limits to imperial expansion. For a species accustomed to being the technological superiors in every encounter, the situation was unprecedented. The Vraxian Empire had subjugated 100 worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, but none had ever managed to reverse the technological gap so dramatically or so quickly. This changes nothing, Calvor declared, though his confidence had evaporated. You may have copied our technology, but the Empire commands over 30,000 capital ships. Even if you destroy this fleet, we will return with overwhelming force. Alina's expression remained impassive. We anticipated that response. She nodded to someone off-screen, and suddenly, the holographic display showed new information. Detailed schematics of the Vraxian homeworld defenses, their fleet deployments throughout the galaxy, and most shockingly, the quantum frequency codes used for secure Imperial communications. When we examined your scout ship's database, we discovered more than just your technology. Alina explained. We found your entire strategic doctrine, communication protocols, and defense systems. Even now, quantum-entangled probes we designed are moving into position near every major Vraxian military installation. The implications were clear. Earth now possessed the capability to strike at the heart of the Vraxian Empire if provoked further. What had begun as a simple subjugation mission had transformed into an existential crisis for the Vraxians. Throughout the Vraxian fleet, captains watched in disbelief as their sensors detected new quantum signatures appearing near their homeworld, human probes that had somehow already spread throughout Vraxian territory. Using the very FTL technology the Vraxians thought humans lacked 3 months ago. Impossible. Calvor whispered again, but with less conviction. The evidence before him defied explanation through any other lens. Humanity had accomplished in 3 months what had taken the Vraxians 3 millennia. In a private channel, Zivray addressed his commander. Grand Sentinel, I believe we must consider the diplomatic option. The alternative appears to be the end of our empire. After hours of tense negotiation, the Vraxian fleet powered down their weapon systems. A formal delegation from Earth, led by Secretary General Rodriguez and Commander Reyes, boarded the Vraxian flagship to establish the terms of the new relationship between humanity and the Vraxian Empire. As they walked the crystalline corridors toward the council chambers, Rodriguez whispered to Alina, "Did we really deploy probes throughout their territory?" Alina allowed herself a small smile. We have exactly 3 prototype quantum probes, all in this system. The rest was an educated bluff based on their strategic doctrine. They think linearly. If we could build 1 ship, we could build 1,000. If we could send 1 probe, why not hundreds? And if they had called our bluff, then we would have demonstrated the other technologies we developed while studying their scout ship. Alina replied grimly. The ones we didn't show them today. The treaty established that day fundamentally altered the power dynamics of the galaxy. Earth was recognized not merely as independent, but as a major power with technologies that even the ancient Vraxian Empire now regarded with trepidation. Other subjugated worlds, learning of the Vraxian defeat, began their own resistance movements, inspired by humanity's example. 6 months later, Alina Reyes stood on the observation deck of humanity's first diplomatic vessel, preparing to attend the Galactic Assembly where Earth would be formally introduced to the wider galactic community. Behind her, Earth glowed blue and serene, now surrounded by a defensive network that incorporated technologies no other species had imagined possible. They came expecting to find primitives, Alina said to her diplomatic team. Instead, they found humanity, adaptable, innovative, and unwilling to bow to tyranny. Today, we show the galaxy who we really are. As the ship engaged its FTL drive, an improved version that left barely a whisper in the quantum foam, the stars elongated around them. Humanity had not only survived its first contact with an alien empire, it had emerged as a force that would reshape the galaxy's future. The silent vanguard had become a thunderous declaration. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage.